About 7 years ago, I was finishing my fellowship at Stanford in infectious diseases, and I knew next to nothing actually about chronic fatigue syndrome. I had been through the entire medical education process. I'd done a PhD. I'd gone through pretty darn extensive training by my count. I think I went through 26th grade is how I counted it. But I saw my first chronic fatigue patient, and I didn't know it was a chronic fatigue patient. As a matter of fact, she didn't tell us that. She didn't come with a label or a sticker or a card. What she came with was a problem and an illness that she herself couldn't define. And it turned out actually that week I happened to be volunteering in the clinic, and there were 2 more of them. The clinic I was working in actually had a long-standing policy of not seeing these kinds of patients because this problem wasn't real. And these 3 had snuck in the door by not saying that they had chronic fatigue syndrome, and presented actually with some very high viral numbers that they wanted addressed, coming down the road quite a bit, and have seen now that actually some of these cases can be treated with various drugs, but it's always a very difficult problem because this syndrome is multi-system, and we're not very good at dealing with complex multi-system diseases in medicine. We have a very great acute care system. So about 7 weeks ago, I entered the system again as a patient this time, and I get to carry this wonderful iconic symbol of patients everywhere. And that really sort of hit me back in the face of how different the challenges are for chronic fatigue patients. They don't have a symbol. I get a huge amount of sympathy. I get doors open for me. I get cars pulled around. I get told to stay in my seat and rest rather than have somebody goes off and gets me something to drink or eat or what have you. And you contrast that to the situation that these patients are in. They come in with tremendous disability, cognitive dysfunction, physical dysfunction. They can't sustain any activity. The disease spans the gamut of socioeconomic, of ethnic proportions. I've seen pretty much every race, creed, color in the 7 years I've been at this. I have VCs on Sand Hill Road who are affected. I have patients who, are teenagers and can't even stay in high school. So the breadth of the disease is tremendous, and the understanding of physicians is actually, in many ways, appalling. When I went into private practice after leaving Stanford and started the institute and a clinic, my colleagues in the community turned to me and said, "We are so glad you're doing this because we don't want to deal with these patients because we don't know what to do for them." It wasn't that they didn't care; it was just that the system of both reimbursements and service wasn't setting them up to take the time to look through these patients, and the education system hadn't prepared them for it either. So we as physicians have a lot to do to understand and be empathetic with these patients to try and fix that part of the system. So fast forward now to 2014. I think the field has changed dramatically in the last few years, but we have a long way to go. There's been a lot more scientific work, but that's been hampered tremendously by lack of funding. Most of our funding in our institute actually comes from private sources, and that's a telling statement. And yet, even with that and other groups as well, we're starting to make headway in terms of finding markers and immunologic differences in these patients. So I think the take-home messages are we need a tremendous re-engagement with physicians and re-education of physicians. We need more funding for research and more attention to what is very clearly a disease that can be defined, or maybe a set of diseases that can be defined at a molecular level. And we need a lot more support for patients with these chronic illnesses. I personally think that these chronic illnesses, and there's a constellation of them, represent a tremendously ignored portion of healthcare, ranging from autism on the low age end of the spectrum up to chronic fatigue and a host of other neuroimmune diseases that we don't deal with very well in medicine. And we need to, because they cost billions of dollars in economic damage. Llewellyn already highlighted the personal damage in terms of lost relationships, lost jobs, and so forth. So I hope that we can move the field forward and increase awareness over the coming years, and certainly we're driving the research in that direction. Thank you.